Invisible Work and Warrior of Women event with our special guest, Ali Springer. Women in Leadership is a committee of the BYU Management Society where we aim to accomplish three things. Those three things are leadership, networking, and experience. My name is Helen Ta'anoa. I am the director of the Women in Leadership, and I will be your host tonight. The BYU Management Society is a worldwide network of business professionals. Our chapter is one of 90 in the world, and it allows us to expand our network across the globe. Our committees include Women in Leadership, My Leadership Story, Global Leadership Connect, Retention and Recruitment, Leadership Development, and Marketing. We would like to remind you of our future BYU Management Society events that are coming up. One is right after this event, which is the after party. It is members only, so if you are not a member but you would like to join us for this event, you can sign up with the ladies outside at our check-in desk. We also have a My Leadership Story workshop with Brett Grove, how to hit the ground running with confidence in your first job after graduation. That will be held on February 9th at 3 p.m. In the South Chapel of the Stake Center. In the same location, on the 22nd of February at 5 p.m., Leadership Development will have a workshop, Listening and Trust. Again, that's at the Stake Center, South Chapel. We will start with an opening prayer given by one of our Women in Leadership members, Rahel Meyer, a senior from Germany majoring in political science and communications, and then Delphia Lloyd, a senior from Idaho majoring in hospitality, tourism, and management, will introduce our speaker.
Lieber Vater, wir kommen zu ins Gebet und jetzt danken für den Tag, den wir heute haben können. Danke für die Möglichkeit haben, hier zu sein. Danke, dass wir auch mit Ali Springer zusammen sein können. Und bitte hilf uns, dass wir weiterhin alles gut schaffen können, dass wir Fehler zulernen können, besonders auch wie wir Women in Leadership sein können. Und wir lieben dich von ganzem Herzen. Das sei mit dem uns vor Namen so Christi. Amen.
Aloha, my name is Delphia Lloyd, and it is my honor to introduce our speaker today. Ali Springer works full-time as a marriage and family therapist in Utah. About half of her sessions are with individual clients, and the other half are with couples or families. Although she meets with clients experiencing a wide variety of concerns, she has made niches for herself in supporting LGBTQ+ clients, helping clients untangle the grief associated with faith transitions and mixed faith marriages, and guiding women in striving to overcome betrayal trauma. Her bachelor's degree is in marriage and family studies from BYU, Idaho, and her master's degree is in marriage and family therapy from Utah Valley University. Ali has 4 children. In her own words, Ali says her kids bring her joy and keep her humble as they challenge all her best therapy theories. Thank you.
Okay, let's make sure the microphone's working. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I'm going to take this off. I can take this off for the presentation, correct? Okay, thanks for letting me be here today. I'm really excited to speak with you guys. Today's topic, obviously, as you can see, is the invisible work and worry of women. So that does not mean we're going to spend the hour or however long we have talking and praising women and resenting men. That is not my purpose at all. In fact, I know that some of the men in the room are probably very egalitarian, and so I'm going to speak from fairly generalized terms. When I speak about men might do this and women might be this, it is going to be kind of very generalized, knowing that it's not that way in every situation at all. But it's something that we want to learn from. And I, because of my background, am really interested in doing things that are best practice and researched. And the research shows that this is something that is a concern between men and women. Okay, this is a made-up profile but it explains someone that would be a very common client of mine. So I kind of pieced together things from some different clients that I have and put it all into this one profile. So this would be a female who is in her 20s, is a member of the LDS Church, has been married for approximately 2-3 years, has a new 6-month-old baby, and it's the only child that they have in their family so far. In her home, there's very traditional roles between she and her husband. She says they have a good marriage, and she is pretty happy with how things are going in general. She has a bachelor's degree, and she works part-time from home, doing some paid employment, and considers herself also a stay-at-home mom taking care of their baby. So when she presents, she says she's struggling to manage anxiety and feelings of overwhelm. She's estranged from her father after years of conflict. Why do you think I would include that if I was going to make a generalized client profile for a presentation where we are discussing the work and worry of women? What do you think her dad's personality and needing to be, not have a relationship with him, how would that possibly be relevant? Yeah.
It will affect all her relationships with every man.
Yes, because her relationship with her dad would then affect her relationship with her husband, how she feels. So there is most likely, I learned in a first session just hearing that, okay, she's needed to set very strong boundaries with her dad. That shows me that she's going to be a little more hypersensitive to men and the ways that she's treated and the interactions that they have between the two of them. Let's see. Oh, she's feeling unfulfilled with her work. So that's obviously relevant to the situation today. These are some quotes, again, of my made-up client, but very typical of things I may hear. My husband says he'll help, but I feel guilty asking. I probably sound like I don't love my job, and being a mom, I'm just so tired. I hear statements like that a lot, where someone will start speaking, and they're speaking really from their heart, and then all of a sudden they tend to kind of clam up and go, oh, you must think that I'm talking too much, or am I doing this therapy thing the right way? Am I being the kind of client that I should be right now? Or they'll say, I probably sound like I'm complaining, because they think that nobody wants to hear them talk about these things, where I tell them, you are doing this perfectly. There's no right or wrong way to do therapy sessions. She'll say, I'm pulled in all these directions. My mind is never quiet anymore. My mind being quiet, I'm just so overwhelmed. There's so much stuff there, and I can't handle that anymore. Why do you think that I care so much about this topic? The work and worry of women. Now, granted, I was given the topic, so it was not something that I picked, but I sure was excited to teach it. Yeah.
Speaking as a woman and as a mother, I think it's a huge thing that many women are dealing with. What you tell me?
Absolutely, yeah. So she's saying, as a mother, as a woman, as someone who works with clients that may be struggling with this, I am a huge advocate for families. Huge advocate for healthy relationships between parents and children, healthy relationships between husband and spouses, and that's just very important to me. So when I got this topic, it really spoke to me, because research that I read, I love to study, I love to look into different theories and how they work with relationships and people and individuals. And what I have seen over and over is that the invisible work and worry of women is creating some major mental health challenges within women. And if there's a major mental health challenge in the woman who's feeling overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, resentful because of some of the challenges she's dealing with, then that affects relationships. And again, like I said, I'm a big advocate of healthy relationships. So that's why it's so important to me. So I put on the top, women are the default for the mental load. When we talk about mental load, I'm going to explain how that's a little bit different than the physical load. We think a lot about running a household and all of the physical chores that need to be done. But the mental load, I want to help you understand a little bit how that relates to the indivisible work and the worry that women are experiencing. The mental load is a term for the invisible labor involved in managing a household and family, which typically falls on women's shoulders. The mental load is not about the physical tasks, but rather the overseeing of those tasks. It's being in charge of having a never-ending list of to-do items constantly running in your head, remembering what needs to get done and when, delegating all the tasks, and then checking back to make sure they were accomplished. It's the behind-the-scenes logistics of planning, organizing, making appointments, and keeping strong ties with family members and friends. So are most of you in the business department? Okay, so who has heard of a project manager in a corporation? Some of you? Who can tell me kind of what a project manager does? Go ahead. Did you raise your hand? Oh, no. Who was raising theirs over here? Go ahead.
So a project manager does basically what this describes. They oversee all the tasks. They delegate the tasks to different people, but make sure to check in on them and make sure that deadlines are being met and help everything come together to the overall project.
Exactly. Yes. So you might think project manager does projects. Actually, project managers do exactly what this is saying. They do the planning, they do the organizing, they do the delegating. So there are full-time jobs where people just do this. So if all we are talking about is this mental load that it typically falls on women's shoulders, then it's not just the physical load of accomplishing things within a home or within an organization, because we're going to spread that out within businesses as well and see how women in the workforce tend to maybe take on some gender specific roles. So the differences in the physical and mental loads, this is a way that I thought that I could kind of explain it a little bit better. If you look at the left side, so the physical load, let's say that a woman, she and her husband are both getting ready for the day. They're both in a rush to get off to work. And she says, hey, before you leave, will you just throw that pile of laundry that's in the laundry room, will you just put it in the washer so we can get that going, so it's washed while we're gone today. So the guy's feeling pretty good about himself. He's like, I am so good at helping. My wife comes and says, can you throw this in? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. We have a partnership relationship, and this is as important to me, and my clothes are in there too. It's not just her clothes that are being washed. So he throws them in. The mental load that would have occurred in order for that load to get put in would mostly have fallen on the woman's shoulders. So she would need to notice when the detergent, dryer sheets, and stain remover are running low. Then she needs to go to the store to buy those items. She needs to collect the dirty laundry from the various areas of the house. Needs to make a mental note of school uniforms, football uniforms, dance costumes, leotards for gymnastics that need to be ready on certain days. She needs to notice when family members are running low on clean socks or clean underwear, because heaven forbid one of the kids not have clean underwear to wear in the morning. She needs to check the pockets of the dirty laundry, because if you have not done laundry yet for children, they're notorious for putting everything you can possibly imagine in their pockets. She needs to ask someone to help by washing the dirty laundry. So she has asked her husband to help, but she needs to find someone to delegate that to. She needs to then, when she gets home, remember to transfer the clothes before they start to mildew into the dryer, or she's going to have to start the whole process over again. And then she needs to sort and fold them, and she needs to maintain organized drawers so that if she's not the one who is going to go put away all the clothes herself and she wants to actually delegate some of that, then the children or the husband or whoever it is needs to know where those items are going to go. So these are the things that might not be recognized just in throwing a load of laundry in. There's a lot of thought process that goes into that. Oops. Oh, there we go. Let me stay right here for just a second. So at this point, I am interested in, as you guys have kind of looked at this, what is an invisible task in your life that you feel like doesn't necessarily go recognized, and it takes a lot of your mental energy to do it? And I'm asking men and women. This is not just for women in the room. Yeah.
Like eating, planning meals, going to the grocery store, getting the right vegetables, making sure you eat it before it goes bad, like that.
Amen. Yeah. And that's probably why we all eat out way more than we ever should, because the thought process of going into what are we all going to eat during the day can be exhausting. So you think of that process alone. If there's one person in the house that has kind of naturally fallen into the role of the one who is in charge of the meals and the grocery shopping and things, then I was just, this last week as I was planning some of this presentation still, I spent a day noticing the mental load that I have, and it's pretty funny. I'm not going to share it with you, but it was like 3 full pages where all day long, anytime I realized I was doing a mental load thing, I kind of typed it out just to see. And just random things, like I went to the fridge, and as I was looking in, and I was looking for mustard, I think, something to make my son a sandwich, then just in that process, I realized, okay, the milk is going to go bad in 2 days. We need to make sure that we use that. So I need to make sure the kids have cereal tomorrow at some point so that the milk is used. And that yogurt is about to go bad. And you're right, there's always some spring mix salad that I've forgotten that's going to go bad. I can't imagine how many of those I throw away, thinking great things when I went to the store to originally buy it and then never eating it. But then one of the mental load things I noticed in that moment was, and the ranch dressing says that it expired. We're not eating ranch right now, but I know that the next time we eat something that needs ranch dressing, I'm not going to want to eat expired ranch dressing. So I just add these things to my mental load for later. I need to make sure that all this is done. That would be a good example. Who else had one? Something that you do in your life that is an invisible, go ahead. Plan your day? Okay, tell me what goes into the planning of your day that you feel like is invisible.
I feel like there must be usually a schedule, right? But there's also something that is like maybe you should do when you forget.
Uh-huh.
And so when something come up suddenly, okay, now I can schedule myself to work on the new project coming up in minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. Just the mental note of readjusting throughout the day, because we can wake up and have great plans for the day, and things can fall apart and go chaotic the whole time. And we're constantly readjusting and making mental notes. Okay, just because you adjusted and now you have to drive home this way because this happened, don't forget to go over here and go to the pharmacy. And then don't forget that one professor said you need to read this book by this weekend, so I need to pick that up, where I left it, or go talk to this person about this before I go back to my apartment. All of that, it's just mental load of thinking everything that needs to be done before you go back and start on the next part of your day, right? Did anyone else have one? Yeah.
I think one is
Yeah.
managing those things.
I love that. Obviously, being a relationship person, I love what she said. I don't know if you could all hear it, but she said sometimes just stopping the mental load of everything that I need to do during the day to focus on relationships, so that when I get home, I'm realizing, oh, I need to stop doing the task list in my head and actually pay attention to this roommate of mine and check in with this one and call my mom because I know it's a hard anniversary of her dad that passed away, and all of those different things that might be more focused on relationships rather than just the mental load. And I love that. If you're my client, A+. You get an A+ in this group today. Okay, so I want to know, in what ways have you noticed the gender divide of physical and mental labor, whether it's in your family or whether it's in your home country? One thing I absolutely love about coming here, being asked to speak here, is I work at a therapy office. On Wednesdays, I'm in Provo, Utah, and then the other 4 days of the week, I'm about 15 minutes from Provo, Utah. So it's a pretty typical clientele that I have, mostly from at least the United States, if not the Intermountain West, mostly white clients, mostly they either have really good insurance to be able to come or they're paying out of pocket, so they're kind of doing well in life. And sometimes I really don't like that part because I don't feel like I get as much diversity. And what was very important to me, in fact, I picked my program when I went back to school to become a marriage and family therapist. I loved that they had so many classes and a strong emphasis on diversity. That was so important to me. So I would love to hear from you, and even if you are from Idaho or straight in Provo, Utah, I want to hear how you have seen this in your family or in your home country. Yeah.
I've seen it in my family, and also I know in my family in Mexico, it's very common for the men to do the physical, well, women do physical too, but they go out and they do the physical work, and the woman stays home, they take care of the kids, they cook, they clean, they provide everything else, and when my husband comes home, everything has to be clean, the food has to be ready, he sits, he enjoys it, she stays cleaning up after the dishes, and it's actually funny, I just went to Mexico this last summer, and a woman there was talking badly about this couple that just got married, and she was saying how the woman is super lazy because he goes to work all day and she just wants to go out to eat instead of preparing something to eat for him, and she just wants to spend all his money, and I was just listening, and so, yeah, I mean, it's pretty common, I saw it my whole childhood growing up, so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating because the culture that you came from in Mexico has very traditional gender roles then, which works for them. It sounds like it works for so many of the couples that are there. There is absolutely nothing wrong with traditional gender roles if it works for people. But how did you then come to a place where you thought, okay, I want this to be a little bit more egalitarian or a little bit more of a partnership thing maybe when I'm a little bit older, and then here you are in Hawaii getting your education?
I still struggle with it actually, because growing up like that, I feel like, well, having brothers too, they sit down at the table, my mom's cooking, so I naturally, out of instinct, go get the plate, go and serve them, prepare the food. Women are always the last ones to sit at the table, and I catch myself a lot of the time still doing that, and it's almost like I just want to please them.
Oh, okay.
So I'm still struggling with it, but at the same time, I know that there has to be an equal balance, and so there's nothing wrong with the guy coming up and serving himself. There's nothing wrong with him doing the laundry. But yeah, and I've especially learned too with my older siblings, and they have a really good balance, a healthy balance with their husbands, and I don't know, she just doesn't do it all. He's supporting her too in a good way, so.
That's Great. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your example, because I learned so much from that situation. And you're right that sometimes it's still going to be in your mind. You'll kind of naturally be the one to go up and serve them, to eat last, to make sure that you clean their dishes. And I want to make it very clear, there is nothing wrong with that. I am not saying that there is one way for people to be and to live. I'm merely trying to bring, for us to notice that there is a mental load that a lot of people are not noticing is there. So no wonder that women are often feeling very overwhelmed in the situation. So thank you for sharing that. And something that I talk to therapy clients about a lot, because they like to say things to me. They'll say, yeah, well, this happened, or I did it this way. I know that was wrong. Or I know that you're going to tell me that I should have done it a different way, or that I'm doing something wrong. And I say, no, you made a choice. If you're making a choice, because if a woman is making a choice to fill that role and she is obligated, she doesn't feel obligated to do it, she's making that choice, that is incredible. What a wonderful thing. Same with the man that decides, I want to support my family by going out in that traditional way and by working hard and coming home and knowing that I am taking care of my family's needs. That is awesome. I love that. To me, the difference would be I feel like I should, or I feel obligated, or this is something that I have to do because other people expect it of me, but I'm not feeling fulfilled. That's when I think it becomes an issue there. Who else wants to talk about their family situation? Yeah.
One, but it's not really my family, but I think it's really interesting to share. So, this couple, they're both Filipino.
Okay.
They've been married for almost 8 years. But right now, so sad that they may even get divorced.
Oh,
And
huh.
we're talking that, like, I was talking to the husband, and he was like, man, I wish 8 years ago I married a Japanese woman. Like, he's kind of joking, but he's saying that, like, Japanese woman is more submissive and they will listen to him, do whatever he wants.
Okay.
They're more like fighting right now because she's really strong about what she's thinking. So I think that's something interesting about. And when he first said that, I was like, I don't blame him because if I were a man, I would marry a Japanese woman as well. But I just really feel like maybe it's the stereotype of like how a woman or Asian woman should be more, listen to the husband or do whatever he wants to do.
Very interesting. Yeah, so they've been married about 8 years, both Filipino, you said? But now he's saying, I wish I would have married a Japanese woman because she would kind of be a little bit more submissive, maybe. And so that would be easier for him, And so that's causing a little bit of conflict because I know they're getting divorced, but the wife in the situation, she must not feel comfortable in that role of being a little bit more submissive. And so, because I'm sure that's been kind of a challenge in their relationship at times, where it sounds like he's saying, I wish I would have married someone who was more submissive. So this girl must feel like, that's not me. That's not really the dynamic that I'm wanting to create here. Okay? Who else? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just, as you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, that is 100% my mom, because when my dad, he comes home from work, she's like the get it done kind of person, so my mom will be like, do this, do this, do this. But she's this one, I was on the phone with her, and she was like, what's the hardest thing about being an adult? Is it like, because I used to be pretty shy and didn't want to, like, in stores ask for help, and I was like, that's all fine. The problem is, like, a lot of things when you're an adult now, like, it's not like a list at school of, like, they give you a bunch of tasks and then you check them off. They're just things you have to be conscious of, like, without being reminded, like,
Yes.
oh, like, maybe no one's talking to me about FAFSA stuff, but maybe I should remember to do this and then this, and they're just all of these, like, invisible tasks that don't necessarily have an immediate deadline, but you still have to be conscious of them, and you have to get them done, and that's 100% like my mom all the time, and she's like conscious of all my sister's club activities and has like worried about like finances and getting our tithing paid and doing this and getting this fee done and like all these little things that she like tells my dad about, and he does them for her, but like he doesn't have to worry about remembering them because she remembers them for him.
Exactly.
So he's like free of the mental clutter, and she's just always going.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I see that a lot. So there is a client that I have, a male client, and his wife suddenly died. So I actually was seeing him before that, but now obviously doing a lot of grief and trauma work with this guy. Well, he is at a loss. And the other day when I was meeting with him, he was saying, there are just charges coming out of our account all the time. I don't even know where they're coming from. Like there's just all these automatic payments flying out all over the place, and it's not written down anywhere. So I don't know exactly what payments are there. So that right there was a mental load. It's not even written down, but his wife must have had a mental load of, on the 10th, I need to make sure this money's in this account because that is going to come out. And then when these, this amount is deposited, then this and this and this and this are going to come out. And this guy was back, 20, 25 years saying, give me a paper bill. I don't even know what's happening with all these payments coming out. So that's a good example of something. And I love what she was saying. Her mom carries a lot of the mental load, knows exactly everything going on with her sisters and where to get them at their different clubs and all that sort of thing. And there was something else that you said in there that I remember I wanted to point out. And now I don't remember what it was. But anyway, I like that you brought that up and said, I'm suddenly realizing this is my parents. This is what they do, Oh, I know what I was going to say. You had mentioned suddenly you're an adult and you're realizing all these different things that you had no idea your mom and dad were thinking of for all this time, all this mental load, right? Where your mom probably was the one making sure everything was happening at a certain time. So it's great. You turn 18 or however old it is and you get to be an adult. Awesome things about being an adult. I have a 17-year-old daughter right now who, she's my third child, and she wants to move across the country to the East Coast. She wants to graduate a little bit early from high school and start like going to college. She's trying to figure all that out, like a university that she wants to go to. Awesome. I'm great, I'm on board. You do you do whatever fits you. But I do have to sit back and laugh a little bit where she's not doing so much of the planning of what she's going to do there. It's more of I'm tired of living at home and having someone tell me what to do. I get that. But I have to laugh a little bit and go, oh, honey, like real life is really going to hit you hard when you realize all the things that I have been managing behind the scenes for you, and suddenly you have to do them all on your own. Even she was really sick this last week. And the amount of things that I did, kind of being at her beck and call, and then also cleaning up everything because she had the stomach flu, so that she didn't then have to go do all of that. And then she went right back to work and school. I thought, oh, she's going to have a hard time when she's sick for the first time when she's far away. And you guys, I'm guessing most of you are not from Hawaii. It must have been really hard to move far away and suddenly go, oh, maybe my parents did do a few things I didn't realize that they were doing along the way. Okay, thanks for those examples. I'll move on. I don't know why it's not showing up completely. Let's see. There we go. So this says 72.3% of moms with kids aged 0 to 18, and this is in the United States. I forgot to put that on. They are employed. That means they're employed besides being moms. They are employed getting paid to do something. So why do you think that I would include this slide on here? Yeah.
Well, what we're discussing tonight is the work and worry of women. And so this is very important to understand about mothers and women in that age group, but it's not just them being a mother. There's other things in their life. So their
Exactly.
mental load includes work and home.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I know you guys all come from different cultures, different backgrounds, different family situations, but a lot of what I see, especially in the Provo, Utah area, of people that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a lot of stay-at-home moms and a lot of men that work. And that's kind of the family makeup, at least while their kids are small. I was a stay-at-home mom for 15, 17 years, maybe. Absolutely loved it. It was extremely hard, absolutely loved it. Now working full-time, extremely hard, absolutely love it. So there's great things about all of it. But I think it's important because we're going to then on the next slide see the percentage of women who take on different tasks, different ones of those invisible tasks, and keep in mind that they are not typically stay-at-home moms. They are typically employed, just like the man in the home is employed, and they're also the moms, and they're also managing the mental load. So this shows the percentage of moms who are, and it's supposed to, I don't know why my slides aren't showing up. There we go. The primary person responsible in the home. So 89% of them are the ones that make the doctor, dentist, orthodontist appointments and take kids to all of the appointments and make sure that they're there on time and wait for them and then talk and schedule the next one and make the payment for it and all of that. 85% of them are the ones that organize play dates or that arrange for childcare. So if a husband and a wife both work, then 85% of the time, the wife is the one who is not just getting up in the morning and having a bowl of cereal and going to work. She's having to manage the care of the children and what's going to happen, and making sure they have all the necessary supplies in their little backpack that they're going to take, and that, then you think of the pandemic on top of that. That's a whole nother nightmare. So 83% of them are the ones filling out school and activity forms. 82% are the ones managing the family schedule, knowing what needs to be done when, who's going to be where, all of that. That's a lot of work. 77% are the ones preparing meals. 76 buying gifts for other people. Maybe that's something we don't think about, but someone needs to buy gifts for the mom and the mother-in-law and for the neighbors and all of that. 75% packing for vacations and doing grocery shopping and laundry. 72% are the ones assigning the household chores. So it's not just getting the chores done, it's that mental load of, okay, who did I have do the dishes last time? Okay, I had this person do the dishes, so I need to make sure that I'm rotating things around. So this time I'm gonna have this kid do the dishes, and then when they do not get off their Xbox, I'm going to have to go into the other room 3 times, get angry at them, threaten to ground them, take their phone away, and then they're finally gonna get it done, and then I'm gonna have to check it and say, hey, you didn't also take out the garbage, make sure you take out the garbage. Not that I'm speaking from experience here or anything. 72% helping with homework and planning birthday parties. So considering almost 3/4 of women work, and then they're also the ones doing all of this, you can see why there's a heavy mental load. 70% of the top 1%, so the top 1% earners that are in North America, and I said on the bottom, the top 1% make an income of $500,000 or more per year. So 70% of those 1% in North America are white men with stay-at-home partners. The reason I bring this up, well, let me see if anybody can guess the reason I bring this up. And maybe there's more than one reason. I'm sure there is. Okay, the reason I bring it up is that top 1% are our political leaders. They're the ones running the countries. They're the ones that are running the corporations that you're going to work for. They're the CEOs of the businesses. So when they are making guidelines for their corporations, they're thinking of just, in their mind frame, hopefully not just, but in their mind frame, they're thinking of stay-at-home moms that handle all the mental load behind the scenes, because that's their reality. So many of them are white men with that reality. Then they're not going to make policies necessarily within organizations that help the people that work for them that are dealing with all of this. Does that make sense? So I think it's important to understand that, and then as you all go and run corporations, which I'm excited for you all to do, then remember to keep in mind your employees that are dealing with this mental load. They call it the second shift sometimes, that when you get off of work and you're a parent, you're going home to then start brand new. Okay, the kids are home from school, I need to walk in the door, this needs to be done, I need to make sure all this, I have 4 hours until I need to make sure everybody's in bed and I'm in bed, and that's why I never exercise, because who knows when I'm ever gonna do that. So another reason that I put this up here is that this was my life. I got married at the age of 20, and I really only got married to a return missionary at the age of 20 because my mom said she only wanted to pay for a wedding of a child that was not a teenager. So I got married the week after I turned 20. I was married for a little over 20 years, almost 21 years, and then had to get divorced. So now you're thinking in your heads the irony of this lady that's a marriage and family therapist being divorced. That's kind of weird. What could she possibly have to know about relationships? She didn't even make one work. But this was my reality. I was a stay-at-home mom. My husband made a lot of money. And it was a good life. We had a great life. At that time, I lived out in Missouri, and we had a big home that was on 3 acres and beautiful, backed up to all of these trees. We had the boat, and we went on the European vacations, and I had the big SUV and all those different things and I loved my life. And then I got divorced, and it was my choice, and I knew it was going to be hard in many more ways than I will go into right now. But suddenly, I was broke, financially destitute. I was on church welfare, I was on government welfare, and I had 4 kids. I am so grateful for that experience because I saw a whole different perspective. Rather than being married to the director of these companies that made all this money and thinking, I am such a good Mormon. Like, I'm just this cute little Mormon wife who's the primary president and does everything right, and my kids are just lined up on the rows in church with their bows in their hair, and they're just so cute. Suddenly, my life was chaos. And I was trying to figure out my next steps, and I had no financial reserves. So as a side note, the fact that you're all getting your education at this age, huge kudos. So grateful for that, because although I hope that I show my kids and other people that you can never be too old to go back and get your education, also, I wish I would have done that way back when, because I didn't have an education. I didn't even have a bachelor's degree, and I was suddenly on my own. So I'm really grateful for that. The reason that I share a little bit of my story is because of the new way that I was able to see different situations, to see the world. I had lived with the, white husband who was the earner, and now I was going to the community health care centers begging constantly for help. Please give me health insurance. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no way to support these kids. Let me try to get that. Okay. In what capacity, and this is a question for you guys, what capacity have you guys worked with people of other genders in your employment and your church service? So most of you, I'm guessing, have had at least some job, whether it was cleaning house for your neighbor or it was working at Taco Bell. Do they have Taco Bell in Hawaii? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys have Taco Bell. Or whatever. So I want you to think of these questions. Did the men or women gravitate towards certain roles? One thing that I find interesting, at least over on the mainland, is that it's typical for women to cook the meals at home, but then if you go to a restaurant, it's mostly men that are in the back cooking. I've kind of wondered that, like where did we decide that it's mostly men that get hired to be the cooks and the girls are the ones up front that take the money? I don't know why, it's just kind of how it's been made. So in what ways have you guys, or in your church service, how have you seen this? And how were each gender's strengths utilized? Because each gender does have great strengths. And then maybe you can think of some different, the differences between the physical and mental load that's there. But you don't have to go into all that, just to get your minds going. Everyone's pointing at someone over here. Oh, right there, go. I was slowly making my way over there.
I just think it's important, like that we're talking about women in leadership because,
Uh-huh.
like, talking about how, what did men or women gravitate towards certain roles. I think like the leadership positions are what like men gravitate towards too. I personally work in a kitchen, and so thinking about like my boss is a man, he's a chef, and like why is that if women are the ones who cook? But I think it's because of leadership, and so emphasizing that like there's a lot to handle, there's a lot of mental load to work with as a woman. That leadership position is like possible as well because if, I don't know, like if men can do it, we can do it too, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
I love that. Absolutely. And I love that, so it's BYU Management Society that runs this, but then it's Women in Leadership, that it's like a committee that you guys have. That is the coolest thing ever. I love that you guys have a Women in Leadership committee or Women in Leadership group or whatever it is, a club that's on campus. I'm not sure exactly how it is. That is so great. Those are the sorts of things that I love to get involved in. And for years, I would say for most of my life, I had this really bad image of what a feminist was. A feminist was someone who was a man basher, who hated men. And so when I would hear that, I'd go like, oh, she's such a feminist. She's acting all like, that women are supposed to be more, do more, and I am over here so tired already. Don't give me any more assignments. I don't want anything else. I don't want a leadership role. I'm just trying to survive over here. Now I'm like, whoa, I'm the biggest feminist ever. Love that title, love it. And because I'm divorced, and I got divorced about 4.5 years ago, back in the dating world, I love to throw that word into dates when I go on dates. Because if the guy freaks out at the word feminist, I'm like, that was fun, won't see him again. But there have been a couple of guys who were like, that's so awesome, I totally consider myself feminist. That's a second date right there, because that is so cool. Okay, does anyone else have any thoughts? I guess I need to start wrapping up. So let's see. I'm going to talk about what women and men can do. What can women do to lessen the gender divide? Stop being gatekeepers. This is something I help a lot of clients with. We, as women, might do repeated monitoring to make sure the chores are done the right way. Criticizing the way a partner accomplishes the duties. For example, insisting, I wrote insisting twice there, insisting children need to be bathed, diapered, or put to bed in a certain way. I did that, and I'm sure it didn't help my marriage situation at times. Stepping in to manage situations after a partner doesn't do things correctly, like disciplining the children, sibling arguments, making plans. Now, I'm not saying if like a child was over-disciplined or, that would be a whole different situation if there was abuse or something happening. But men are going to raise children differently than women do, and we need to let men have a relationship with their kids. They can do things, they can figure it out, but if we're stepping in to try to correct everything that they do, doesn't help anything. Calling to schedule doctor and dentist appointments for your partner. For heaven's sakes, a husband can call and make his own doctor appointment. First of all, he's going to know his schedule better. And if he doesn't go to the doctor and he deals with some health stuff, well, natural consequences. That's fantastic. Constantly reminding older children or partners of required tasks or calendar items so they don't have to deal with natural consequences. Again, there we go, the natural consequences. So, unhelpful statements. Here's what men can do to lessen the gender divide. I did want to read one thing that I had written down. When a man expects his partner, this is a quote that I read, and I can give you guys where I found it, but when a man expects his partner to tell him what needs to be done, he's viewing her as the manager of household chores. He's essentially saying that he can't, won't, or doesn't know how to take care of his share of the mental load. So, such as thinking back to the client that I kind of made up in the beginning when she said, my husband says he'll help, but I feel guilty asking him. Okay, well, the guilt is the first thing we're going to work on in therapy, right? But then helping? Is it his child? Does he live in that house? Like, what is he helping with? Do you mean that he's accomplishing tasks in the house that are just as much his responsibility as yours? That makes more sense. Because otherwise, in a lot of stay-at-home mom situations, they work 24 hours a day, including getting up every 2 hours to feed the baby and managing all the mental load and the physical load in the home, and the husband gets to go to work for 8 hours. Awesome if that works for you. It worked for me for a long time until I said, wow, this is no longer working. Got myself into therapy and was finally able to lower my antidepressant a little bit, although I'm still on an antidepressant. So there you go. Another thing that's ironic. I've had to take anti-anxiety and antidepressant medications most of my life. I go to therapy for myself, and I'm divorced, and my kids are sometimes a really big hot mess, and I'm a marriage and family therapist. Go figure. So, unhelpful statements. You should have asked. I would have helped. Let me know if you need any help. Relax. You always get so stressed out about everything. Helpful statements would be, I'll stop by the store while I'm out because we need milk and eggs. Ding, ding, ding. He noticed the milk and eggs were out. I've been thinking about a gift for my mom's birthday. It's his mom, right? And thought she might like blank. It's a great one. I want to create a more unified relationship by becoming more involved in managing our family's needs and schedules. If that is not an aphrodisiac for every woman, like that statement right there is so exciting. Okay, and I think we're supposed to be done at 5:30, correct? So this is just something to think about, how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the invisible work and worry of women. You see this woman right here who is probably doing some work from home because suddenly she wasn't able to go into the office anymore. Next to her, she's also helping her child do schoolwork because their school shut down and now she has to do all of the homework, not just the homework, but the actual schoolwork that this kid is doing. And then I'm gonna guess she needs to kick that teenager off whatever she's doing right now because she looks a little too comfortable to be doing schoolwork. So I'm guessing that she's watching YouTube or something. But there's a lot of invisible work and worry that women are suddenly overwhelmed with the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm gonna wrap up there. I do have, let's see if I can get the picture to show up right there. And I wanted to just close on that. We're not gonna go into the topic, but I wanted you guys to think about how can a greater understanding of this topic help in developing leadership skills? Because that's what we're talking about here. And that's what you guys are going to take into the corporations you run or the families you run, wherever you do that, the church service that you give. And I'm not saying this just for women. I want men and women to understand the mental load because you guys are all going to go out and do all those different things. And the mental load is creating a lot of heavy burden. And then it causes resentment within relationships. And that's when relationships with resentment is when they start to break down. So I'm hopeful that something that we talked about today was helpful for you guys in thinking about this. So thanks for letting me come and speak today. It's been awesome. And you guys do like a closing prayer or something? So I'll turn it over to whoever's in charge.
Thank you so much, Ali Springer, for taking the time out to be with us tonight. Thank you for our free therapy session that we were all a part of, and I'm sure that we all learned something in tonight's session. Just a reminder that we do have our after party. After this, we have pizza and ice cream. If you are not a member, you're welcome to join right outside. And we are excited to provide food for you. If you're on a diet, everyone gets a cheat meal, so your cheat meal can be on us. Just join us for pizza and ice cream. So to end our event for today, I would like to call upon Ruth, a senior from Myanmar, majoring in accounting and business management finance, to close us with a word of prayer. Thank you.